So, hi everybody. Today we are going to explore one of the most fundamental blocks of our nervous system, which is the anatomy of neurons, the neuron. If you understand neurons, I think you will be able to understand the foundation of how the brain thinks, feels, remembers, and responds. So, I think let's begin. A neuron basically is a specialized cell designed to transmit information throughout the body, which it does in the form of electrochemical signals. Electro means electricity and chemicals mean chemical transmission. So converting this and communicating through your entire body. You can imagine it in like an electrical wiring system, but far more complex and alive. Every thought you have, every movement you make, every emotion you feel is made up possible because of the neurons when they communicate with each other tirelessly. So this is the diagram which explains how the neuron actually looks like. Obviously you can't see it with a naked eye, but as soon as we try to understand its structure, we'll be able to understand its functions as well. So if you see this diagram majorly consists of the important structures of a neuron, which is the dendrite, the cell body, or also known as soma, and the axon. So this is your axon, these are your dendrites, and this is your cell body. Now let's understand the function of each. So dendrites, in short, it is the branch-like extensions at the beginning of the neuron. So you see this branch-like extension? These are your dendrites. Their job is to receive signals from external environment. They basically grab the signals. Think of them as the tiny antennas tuned to catch signals. The more dendrite a neuron has, the more connections it can form, and the stronger your learning and memory become. Okay? Then comes your cell body. Your cell body is the metabolic center of the neuron, also known as soma. Once your dendrite has received the signals, they travel to the cell body, like they travel here itself. The soma contains the nucleus, the command center of the neuron, the central nervous system of the neuron, which is the most important part of the same. The soma contains the nucleus, and here the cell processes the incoming information and decides whether the signal should continue forward or not. If we compare the neuron to a company, the soma would be the main office where the decisions are made. Okay, I hope I'm clear this much. Then traveling forward, the third important part is the axon. So these are the axons here. Now, if the signal needs to be sent further, it travels down to the axon, right this way. The axon is a long, thin fiber that can be extremely short or over a meter long as well, depending upon the neuron's function. It acts like a highway carrying the electrical impulse all the way to the next neuron or to the muscle or gland. Then along with the axon, there are some of the neurons as well, which have a protective covering known as myelin sheath. Now here they have that myelin sheath. We'll understand the functions of that myelin sheath as well little later on. So these were the three important parts of a neuron. Now coming back here. Now let's understand the important functions. We just understood that the receive neuron, reception is done. They conduct the transmission of the signaling. So conduction and transmission is going on here as well. Now, the another important aspect of a neuron is your cell membrane. Cell membrane is the outermost structure or the outermost membrane covering up your neuron. Now, this cell membrane is made up of lipid layer. Now, lipids are the fats and bilayer means two layers. So, your cell membrane is made up of two layers of fats, which contains two types of protein. One is your channel protein and another is your signal protein. Now, what your channel protein does is, these are the type of proteins through which certain molecules can pass through the neuron. Okay, and signal proteins are the type of proteins which transfer signal inside the neuron when a molecule binds to the outside portion of the membrane. Okay, so basically they also transmit the signals but have a little different function. Now coming down. Now these neurons, when coming to its structure, they are of different varieties. They are of different structures and different types in terms of how they look. We have majorly four different types of neurons here. One is your unipolar neuron, one is your bipolar neuron, another is multipolar neuron. So what are the difference between this? Look at the cell body here. When the cell body has one single projection going through it, we call it as unipolar. It is basically based on number of projections emanating from the cell body. So from this cell body, only one projection is going on. Hence, it is known as unipolar. Now from the second figure, from the cell body, there are two extensions going on. Hence, it's bipolar. And when from the cell body, there are multiple projections going on, then it is known as multipolar. Okay, so I hope we are clear with the basic structure of the neuron. Coming back to this diagram, there are other important aspects as well. We learned about the cell membrane, we saw the dendrites, we saw the axon hillock. So this point, this is known as the axon hillock. The cone-shaped region at the junction between axon and the cell body, which connects them basically. Then comes your axons, the long narrow process that projects from the cell body. We'll see the myelin sheath as well coming forward. Then we have nodes of Ranvier, the gaps between the section. These are the nodes of Ranvier. Then comes the buttons, the terminal buttons here. These help in receiving of the signal, receiving of the neurotransmitter, which we will study little later on during the action potential process. And the synapse, the gaps between adjacent neurons across which chemical signals are transmitted. So this is the one cell and this is the end of another neuron, like the one neuron and the another neuron. The space between them where the exchange of neurotransmitters take place, not the exchange exactly, but the transmission of neurotransmitter to the another neuron. The space between them is known as the synapse. That is the gap between the adjacent neuron across which chemical signals are transmitted. Okay, I hope this much is clear for the structure of neuron. Let's move forward to the glial cells. Now the glial cells are also known as the forgotten cells. Now why is this so? Because people don't emphasize on their role. Now neurons are not only cells in the nervous system. There are about as many as glial cells as well. Okay. So there are several kinds of glial cells. Now what exactly are glial cells? These are the supporting cells for a neuron. They provide support to the glial cells. They provide support to the neuron, sorry. So we have further functions as well and we'll see it one by one. Now we have different types of glial cells as well. Now if we look at this neuron, the main portion of its cell body is supported by the glial cells. That is the central nervous system of this neuron which handles the major functions and it is supported by glial cells. Now rest is under the periphery which handles the other communication. So this is the PNS of a neuron and it is handled by the Schwann cells. Now one by one we'll study all of them. Now the first type of glial cell is the oligodendrocytes. Now basically they wrap around the neurons of central nervous system. So the neuron which is wrapped here around the cell body is the oligodendrocyte. Now they are covered with the myelin rich sheath. As we studied myelin initially, which was a thin layer wrapped around the axon, that is the myelin sheath. This myelin sheath is rich in fatty insulating material. Okay, and its function is to increase the speed of the transmission and increase the efficiency of neural conduction. Okay. Now on the other hand, we have the Schwann cells, which are the cells covering up your axons here, the peripheral nervous system. Now they also have the similar function as the glial cells. Now they also guide the axonal regeneration or the regrowth after damage. If there is any sort of damage here, the Schwann cells are responsible for their regeneration or regrowth, if we say. Then the second type of glial cells are your microglia. As the name suggests, they are way more smaller and tiny. They respond to the injuries in your body. If you have any injuries, they work by multiplying and engulfing the cellular debris or the trigger the inflammation response in your body. Okay, if you see any of this, if you observe any of such symptoms, it is due to the microglia cells. Now they also regulate the cell death, synapse formation and the elimination as and when required. Okay, then we have third type of glial cells, that is your astrocytes. Now astrocytes, they are the largest glial cells. They are named after their shape, which is the astro, and astro means a star. They are basically sort of shaped like a star and hence they are named as astrocytes. Now they cover the outer surface of your blood vessels which go towards the brain and allow the passage of some chemicals from your blood to the central neurons, the central nervous system neurons basically, and blocking the others which are not required. Okay, and they also have the ability to contract and relax the blood vessels depending upon the amount of blood required by the brain. Okay, so these were type of glial cells and other than the Schwann cells. So in order to summarize this, the central nervous system has the supporting cells which are known as glial cells, which are of three types: the oligodendrocytes, the microglia and the astrocytes. Microglia are the smaller ones, the larger ones are the astrocytes, and the oligodendrocytes are present near the cell body which wrap around the neurons of central nervous system and have the myelin rich sheath which is made up of fatty insulating tissue and is responsible for increasing the speed and efficiency of axonal conduction, the neural conduction basically. And for the peripheral nervous system, we have supporting cells known as Schwann cells. They have the similar function to your glial cells, which also guide the axonal regeneration and regrowth if they get damaged. I hope I'm clear with this short part of the video. If you have any doubts, please comment below the video and we'll definitely come up with another video sorting all your doubts. Thank you very much.